Buongiorno, anzi buonasera, and hello to all of you. Thanks for being here to all the participants. I particularly want to thank all the participants in today's meeting. All of them are representatives of top position in their organization, and this is certainly a good starting point for an association like ours that has always taken to heart and support both globally and locally the diversity and inclusion themes and sustainability. Just a couple of words to introduce the topic under discussion today, which will be treated from different angles, from different areas of the world, of our planet, from Australia to the US, moving from Europe, as a further testimony of the global vocation of our IAA association. So just to introduce, since I was a teenager, I was passionate about painting, art and architecture, and I was intrigued by the figure of Artemisia Gentileschi, certainly the greatest artist in the Baroque era in Italy and beyond, defined in my opinion, quite wrongly as a Caravagesque, because she had her own styles. Well, Artemisia, that we all remember and of which we all have in mind for sure, at least Judith and Holofernes, has decided to make her way in a world dominated by men, by paying a high price and using her art and her extreme talent, denouncing in her paintings the many abuses and prejudices of her time. And we were in the 17th centuries. A leap of 3 centuries, and another great Italian Nobel for Medicine, Rita Levi-Montalcini, who had undergone the racial laws in 1938 in Italy, who tells in an interview that the first time she went to America at the passport control, the policeman asked her who was her husband, and she, clearly replied, "I am my own husband." The man at the passport control did not understand and thought she did not know the English. The situation was very different. That America today has a woman as a vice president, Kamala Harris, who all of us remember that she declared in her inauguration speech, "Even in dark times, we not only dream, we do." So these 3 important women, a meaningful quote to introduce our great guest today, starting from our managing director, global managing director. So I'm very glad to have today with us Dagmara as a representative of the global International Advertising Association. So thank you, Dagmara, for being here today. I'm so glad to leave you the floor to introduce yourself, your experience as a woman in a global world, within our global association in a top situation, top management situation. So, Dagmara, the floor is for you.
Thank you so much, Alberto. Give me just one moment to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Wonderful. Well, thank you so much and welcome everyone. My name is Dagmara Szulce. I'm the Global Managing Director of IAA. I'm also the first female Global Managing Director in the 83-year history of IAA. And I'm the Managing Director in the times where we also happen to have the first African chairman to be really the leader of our global association that was founded 83 years ago. So it's a real privilege to be here with you today. And I thought maybe I will start by sharing my personal story because I really didn't intend to be the global managing director and work on global brands and drive global operations. I really started in my humble country, Poland. I was born in a communist Poland with just a dream to see the world. When I was a little girl, geography was my most favorite topic, and I was dying to leave my little town and leave Poland to see the world. I never imagined that this dream would turn into a dream job. And it was actually advertising that has allowed me to do that. As some of you might remember, but it wasn't really fun growing up in Poland in the communist times, especially if you were dreaming about creativity and being artistic. We had no brands, no freedom of choice, and no competition. So it was a very, very different world. And my father was actually a businessman. He was a CEO actually of a company, if you can imagine, during those times. But there were not women in the management roles at all. My mom was a ballerina. She was an artist. I had nobody around me except from my aunt, who actually was an economics professor. And she was teaching marketing at some point. And it was actually my aunt to inspire me to try the field of marketing, because I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to work for National Geographic, again, travel the world. By my aunt back then convinced me to study a very mysterious topic called marketing. I didn't have a clue what it meant in reality. And I started in Poland. I was one of the first actually employees of J. Walter Thompson, employee number 5. Then I moved to Hong Kong. I was very lucky to work for some of the brightest people at J. Walter Thompson. Tom Doctorow, who was the CEO at the time, was my boss. And in Hong Kong, I got a real taste for traveling the region and really experiencing building brands in a very complex strategic ecosystem, where we had to launch Listerine in China and in Asia, where really brushing teeth alone was a challenge in the country at the time. I got a multinational experience, and with that experience, I decided to go to America and apply for a job in advertising in the most exciting, at the time, for me, city in the world. So I got a job at JWT, and very quickly I got very attracted to work on brands that were targeting women. And really the breakthrough came in when I was working on the beers on a marketing team at J. Walter Thompson, with a challenge to how to increase sales of fashion diamond rings. And back then we came up with a very simple idea: women have 2 hands. The left hand is to celebrate my relationship, and the right hand is to celebrate me as a woman. And the simple campaign, really back then in 2004, proved to be one of the most powerful campaigns in the country. It really showcased the power of women, unleashed women in a way I had never experienced before. And I realized the power of marketing, the power of advertising, if you can connect with women in the right way. Back then, women were earning as much as men. They were purchasing shoes for $2,000. They were purchasing handbags. We felt, why shouldn't we allow women to self-purchase diamonds to celebrate themselves for their own achievements? And this is how my journey started, when I really started to specialize in purpose-driven marketing, focus on women, ended up working on Dove campaign, work with Estee Lauder, and work with some private equity firms to really teach them how to build purpose-driven brands focus on women. And who knew, this year there was an article featured with me as one example of a female leader who has gone on this journey to really to learn how to build global brands. It hasn't been an easy journey, has been a very unusual journey in my case, but I have to say I've been very lucky not only to be surrounded by a lot of extraordinary women, but also a lot of extraordinary men who were able to collaborate with me to kind of pursue my dream. And my dream has been always to teach other women to be purpose-driven and to craft brands that can really help move societies and contribute to consumers' well-being. And with this leadership role at IAA comes a big responsibility. I was the first female managing director to run IAA. And IAA is a very well-established association. We are sector neutral. We have members coming from all the different sectors, advertisers, clients, agencies, as well as platforms and academia. And we serve as the global compass to the industry, pointing them to the next frontier of how to build high-value brands. And I really feel slowly but surely, when I joined, our board was mostly male, but slowly but surely we are introducing more women. We are making our board more diverse. And I think there is a big opportunity on my behalf, the behalf of the managing director, to really lead the association in a way that's diverse, that's inclusive. It collaborates with all the different countries. We are present across 56 countries. We represent all the different sectors, all the different cultures, ethnicities, and it's up to me to create a culture of collaboration and inclusion to really make everybody collaborate together. As I said, our vision of the global compass, it's something that guides our behavior, and diversity, equity, inclusion is one of them. So one of the initiatives that we are very proud of is we are working on an initiative called OBA. OBA in Ghana means a girl. Since we have Joel as our chairman coming from Ghana, and we've been to Ghana a few times to participate in our conference over there, we decided to create a foundation in Ghana to support girls' education, because I strongly believe our industry would be better and stronger if we had more women in our industry, and it all starts with education. I wasn't lucky enough to learn about marketing or even learn about advertising when I was a young woman in Poland. Imagine some of women in a lot of countries don't even get a chance to have elementary education. So at IAA, we want to make it clear that we are very supportive of education in general, but we are also very supportive of educating girls and women, girls in elementary education and women in, obviously, in digital marketing field, performance marketing, to make sure that our industry attracts more women, because we have the power. We collaborate in a very different way than men do. And as the testament of this, we are hopefully in this September unveiling our first diversity inclusion campaign called All In, to celebrate the diversity of IAA. IAA has been diverse for many years, since its inception, because we are so international. Diversity is really our secret sauce to success. I really believe diversity drives creativity and innovation, and given what's happening with the pandemic, I strongly believe we need more creativity and innovation, and the diversity drives creativity, it drives innovation. And so this campaign hopefully will put IAA on the map as the leader in diversity, to not just apologize for not having enough women or enough diversity, but to actually encourage everybody to join our movement, because IAA is proudly making a stake in the ground that we want to be the most diverse association in the world, and we want to inspire others how diversity can be seen actually as a strategic asset to corporations. We've just shot this campaign together with our global members, Google, TikTok, Nielsen, and Facebook, and we are working together on a toolkit to educate our industry how to drive diversity inclusion across all of the different sectors of the industry. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here. Back to you, Alberto, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Dagmara. We are so proud to have you leading our association and you to drive our association toward these topics. So, as you mentioned, diversity drives creativity, and that's exactly what we have been perceiving in our association globally and locally. So, and that's exactly what we have been doing today. So let me move ahead and introduce our roundtable. So I'm so happy to have you here today with us, Marianna Ghirlanda, President of the UNA Study Center and CEO of BBDO Italy. So thank you, Mariana, for being here today. Then we have here Monica Davò, Heads of Complaints and Investigation of IAP, IAP Italy, and then we have Pia Rossignaud, President of Osservatorio Tutti Media. So I would like to start with you, Mariana. Mariana, you are President of the UNA Study Center and CEO of BBDO Italy. So you have a privileged point of view in our market, and even from your previous experience, local and global. As a professional, as a woman, how do you think the way of representing women in advertising creativity has changed? Has a lot to be done, or is still a lot to do? What do you think are the next challenge in this field, Mariana?
Thank you very much for this question, because the relationship between women and commercial communication has been always very controversial. So it's a tough issue, and it's a very interesting and important point. Let's say that it did not start probably in the best way, because from the very beginning of the advertising tradition, when advertising became mainstream, women has always been seen in two ways: as a target and as a content. And what is more surprising, that even when the target is a woman, the content is a woman. But let's try to understand what I mean. As a target, usually women has been seen as the typical purchase manager of every single household. When you try to sell anything that has to do with the house, you will never target a man, because you give for granted that on the other side there is a woman. And this is the first stereotype that advertising has been building in the last 50 years. But the worst probably is that we have been using, and it has been used, woman as a content, because as you know, as we all know, because it was something that was everywhere, that the woman body has been used to sell basically everything. So it has been a long time when the body, the woman body, has been exploited as a content. And the worst part of this is that these bodies that we have been represented so many times has always been treated in a wrong way, because in the commercial, women are always thin, tall, mostly blonde, sexy, and always 30 years old. I've never seen for 20 years a woman older. Even when the target is older, what we see in the visual part of the commercial communication is always between 35, the oldest can be around 40. So this for sure created a common sense about the representation of the woman body that went from the advertising also out of it. And it was really educating people in a wrong way, because as you know, maybe now it's slightly different, because content is the new advertising and we use a different way of advertising. But advertisement has always been shaping the social community in a very strong way. And this was only the beginning, because when the commercial communication grew, with television, animated content, storytelling, together with the exploiting of the woman body, the commercial started with showing a sample of stereotypes. Businessmen with female assistant, cleaning ladies. I've never seen a cleaning man on a commercial. and housekeepers everywhere, this purchase manager of the household represented in the advertisement. And of course, this influenced a lot all the public and the social community. Are things changing? This is part of your question. Yes, things are changing. Are things changing quickly or slow? Slow, very slow. The woman issue in ADV, let's call it, I don't know if in English is perfect, but it's not over. And there are many things that we still have to do. I work in advertising. I'm a woman working in advertising, and I share this role with a lot of colleagues, and we are still fighting every day. And we are fighting in every single casting when we choose characters for representing women. And we are fighting, of course, as women in advertising for ourselves, but we are fighting for our daughters. And it's not only a point around gender, but it's a point that is very important for every kind of diversity. And it's something that I hope that is evolving, and the time, the rhythm when that is changing gets quicker, because there are still a lot of things to do. And what I believe is important is to talk about it. So this kind of conversation we are having now, I think, is very important. It's always important to look at advertising in this with this kind of criticism, and in the era of social media, comment and share your opinion about this, because this is very helpful for younger people, and is something that will change only with the next generation, because I think that what has been already as a cognitive bias deployed in our brain is difficult to change, but we really need to work for the new generations.
Thank you, Marianne. So I'm definitely with you. So I think that we need to speed it up. You mentioned that the things are changing, but slowly, and I think that our task is to to start and support this change. I think that we are at the tipping point.
I think
so it's very important. It is not only about gender, and I'm definitely with you, Mariana. So thanks a lot for your points of view. A very important point of view for our community, and I would like to move to Monica and leave the floor to Monica. Monica, thank for being here today. You've been working at the Self-Regulatory Institute for many years. For some times you have represented the figures who is in IAP, Istituto di Autodisciplina Pubblicitaria in Italy, and is responsible for evaluating the inadequacy of the representation of women in advertising. Can you tell us from your point of view and your experience in this field, what has happened and what's going to happen, and what we would like to see in the future from this point of view, Monica?
Yes, absolutely. Let me just share my screen. Okay, and thanks for the invite, Alberto. Just a quick overview of the IAP, the Italian Self-Regulatory System, which was established over 50 years ago to ensure advertisements across Italian media stick to our code. Two bodies enforce the rules of our code, whose members are totally independent from the advertising industry. IAP is made up of associations and companies representing this stakeholder in the advertising ecosystem. Getting straight to the point of gender, well, we all know begins well before you get anywhere near an ad. However, I believe advertising can be a contributor in perpetrating biases. It does have an effect, as also Mariana mentioned, on people's views and perception of the world. But at the same time, it can play a role in assuring responsible communication, in setting the right tone to help to drive positive change. This brings us to our standards pertaining to this issue, to which advertisements have to comply. We have two general rules of behavior. Article 9, which prohibits ads depicting violence, either moral or physical, or indecent and vulgar messages. And Article 10, which obliges respect to human dignity in every form and expression, and should avoid any form of discrimination, including that of gender. In 2013, we included the word gender to give a signal of attention to society and stakeholders as a result of a continuous debate around this matter. I would also like to mention Article 11, which offers a general protection of minors, as we have noticed a few trends around the gender and stereotypical issues related to minors. In particular, this rule prohibits sexualization of children. But let's get straight to some examples. I will show you some cases of our activities. Some of them are recent, others older, but significant anyway. Breaches can take many forms. I've tried to group them in a few symbolic categories. The first one is depiction and dignity. In the middle, you see an example of a choice of communication that often causes censorship by self-regulatory bodies. The use of double meanings or innuendos in a vulgar nature. You see a woman, a glass of red wine, intentionally positioned, and the slogan says, "Taste me." Another choice of communication is the use of the images of women broken down into their anatomy, instrumental and demeaning, usually referred to by the headline. Like on the right, you see an ad for a butcher showing two bottoms. One seems more toned and sculptured than the other, and the slogan says, "Meat is not always the same." Or a shapely breast saying, "Breast enough for everyone," with a clear association to the product, both in quantity and quality. And this brings to objectification of a woman, like in the last example, where we see a woman lying on a bar counter with a QR code in a very strategic position, and the claim, "Scan me and see what I can offer you." You see, all these examples are not, all these situations are not strictly separated, but intertwined. The second category is violence. Thankfully, we do not have recent example. I will show you one that raised lots of concerns some years ago. It was an outdoor ad for a microfiber cloth to clean the house. You see a woman lying on a bed, seemingly dead, a man sitting on the corner, and the slogan says, "Get rid of all traces." It gives an immediate idea that a crime has just been committed. The third category, gender stereotype. We all agree that advertising usually uses a language that is familiar with the audience, and sometimes stereotypes are included. This is not problematic per se, but it involves careful attention. It becomes problematic when it suggests that something, as we have heard before, is just a woman's sole duty, like to tidy her house. Or, as we can see in this example, where there is an imbalance between male and female stereotype. This was a TV ad for a soft drink. You see a young boy and a young girl. The boy is studying science, he needs a break, and then carries on studying like a little Einstein. While the girl is consuming all her energy to find the perfect outfit, the right outfit. And at the end, she finds the perfect match and her room is tidy. The implication of these two examples in the same TV ad is that a young girl's role is just to look pretty. No other potential is needed. I want to show you another two examples of gender stereotyping. An ad for a lip mask with quite self-explanatory. The idea is that men just want women to keep quiet. While on the right you see...
Hey, Monica, we can see your screen now.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Can you see now?
Not yet.
It doesn't say anything that there is a...
Anyway, you described so well your point of view, so we have in mind what you described. So
tell me when you can see.
No problem. You can go ahead because we really appreciate and we got your meaning. So that's great as well. We can go ahead. No problem, Monica.
Okay. The last example was it is an ad that shows underwear for young girls, very young girls, and it is very provocative in their attitude, in their way of showing themselves. Fortunately, there aren't many cases like this, but we keep an eye on them to avoid exploitation of minors. This is just a taste of our activity, bearing in mind that these examples are a very small percentage of the volume of advertising and also of the total amount of our cases. Nevertheless, we are aware that besides numbers, emotions count and can amplify the effect of derogatory or offensive messages, and therefore we should always be very attentive. To conclude, I wanted to show numbers of our activity. Maybe you can't see them, but I can say that these are numbers pertaining to formal adjudications and also to cases resolved informally thanks to the cooperation of the advertiser. And in the last 2 years, we have seen that numbers seems to be decreasing. A trend confirmed also at the European level by EASA, the association representing the the advertising self-regulatory network and many industry stakeholders. I believe this is due to effective interventions on one side, but also to social and cultural reasons on the other. As we mentioned before, something is moving. I think, for example, at protest and awareness movements that have come about, discussions on social media pointing out offensive advertising and giving rise to complaints, and also initiative given by businesses like the global launch of the Unstereotype Alliance, a group dedicated to end harmful gender-based stereotype in advertising, or brand-led initiative. All this to stimulate a cultural change which has to be constantly nurtured. Anyway, I think that, as our English friends would say, we will keep walking the walk. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. So I think that you so well described the situation so far, and starting from what Marianna mentioned before, the change has started, but slowly, still slowly, and you confirmed that the trend of this, bad way of communicating is still decreasing. So I think that you can confirm what we discussing today and what Marianna mentioned before. So there's a lot of things to do, and we are here to go ahead with this support, even from our side as a community, and we need, I think, and I will leave the floor to Pia Rossignaud, who is the president of the Osservatorio Tutti Media, all media observatory, not only because Maria Pia, you have a long career as a journalist, and you have received many awards, and you are head of Media 2000, Media 2000 magazine, and vice president of the Osservatorio Tutti Media. This is the only association in Europe that brings together all the Italian media at the same table. Not easy task, but and we really appreciate this. I would like to understand from your point of view, so the role of the journalist has always been crucial in spreading knowledge, awareness, and educating Italy, and not only with this task. In your opinion, is the way of describing the figure of women in Italian newspaper keeping up with the times we live today? And is journalism well represented by women who are in charge of today? Would you share with us your precious experience so far? Monica, Maria Pia.
Well, thank you, Alberto. Thank you, all of you, to let me be part of this important event. And I appreciate all the work that has been said till now. And I just have my keywords as power and slow change, gender, because there are very, very important point of view to develop after. Here we must say that to get more news coverage of women, we need more women make the news. Because if aren't women to tell news, we will have only one point of view. My history is a normal history of journalists of my age in Italy. When I began at my newspaper in Naples, Il Mattino, the only one, it was at the time, there were 3 women, one for advertising, one journalist, and one stagista, and the stagista, I was the one. So, and the journalists in charge of the newspaper were 186. So that's the word from was I began where I begin, and that's why I say that more women are good for looking at a new point of view on the world. I read and I appreciate Evoke is a community of optimists created by Melinda French Gates. And I think that here today we are also in the right place to start a conversation, amplify new voice, and forge stronger bonds between change makers, because we are change makers, I think, because only the fact that we are here discussing means that we are change makers. And in a certain point of view, our observatory, that yes, it is the only association that takes together newspaper and Google and Facebook and some other, and I hope will take also TikTok and all the new media and Facebook, of course. So we are really unusual situation. But we are an environment with similar purpose, because it is an example of horizontal collaboration. Because what I think it's wrong today is the excessive verticalization of context. We propose and support convergence. We support technology transfer. Well, I could say contamination, but today is a word that it's frightening for it's the pandemic year, so that's not a good word now. So we feel as Osservatorio that to all effect, like a game changer, is to discuss peers to participate in the construction of a more balanced and inclusive society. Because the excess of verticalization, from my point of view, close people, company, societies within themselves. The same situation can be applied also for gender and diversity gap, but not only for women, for the diversity in the society. So we do support a different point of view that became day after day. If you do not support a different point of view, day after day, that thought became the thought of a minority, and that's what's happened till now in the world of the media. So the situation, it's not good till now, because if you read all the research, study, and commentary, I take a lot of time to going around on the internet and read about this. The free Fred unlimited research in 1908 focused on the unrepresented, that women are unrepresented in news media and are often portrayed in stereotypical way. So women are still few, and women make up less than 1 in 4 of people heard, read about, or seen in newspaper, television, on radio news. So the gender gap is most evident, and we have to fight to cancel it. Anyway, the Global Media Monitor Project is a good thing that monitor all the change, and I read the confirm that in 81% experts interviewed on the media are men, not women. Women, as some other girls around the table here said before me, women are featured in media. They are often portrayed in limited and stereotyped roles, such caregivers, models, or victims. Women are more likely to be linked to superficial characteristics, such as their appearance, clothing, age, and relationship status, while men tend to be referred to in relation to their ideas, experience, and profession. So I think that we have a lot to fight to port this gender inequality to stand to a good balance. Because men are far more likely to be visible as journalists, experts, and subjects that women, and be portrayed in a way that values their opinion, experience, and profession. Now, the good news here is the history that I take like a flag to the changement. The history of the new journalist, which is Chua, which is a transgender, that was a journalist, a man, before the COVID, and used the COVID to change his gender, and now is a woman, and has been nominated to the Reuters in a very, very big place of the newspaper agency. And the history of Chua is pointed out on the news, on the New York Times, and I think it's a history that values also because it represents a moment of transition that has to be the symbol of a new world where everything is possible. And also it's fantastic that Chua says her story, wants to share, and she hasn't feared to be criticized, and she has not fear about being a victim on the history of social media. So I think that we have a lot of to work yet, but we are on the way, and we can win.
Thank you, Maria Pia, and thank you for being in time. So I think that as you know, the change has started. Probably there's a lot of things to do in the journalism space, I guess. You mentioned that gender gap is still in place, so we have to work to reduce this gender gap in the journalism, if I got well. So thank you for your point of view, Pia, and thank you again for being here and sharing your opinion with us today. So we are going to the second part, and I would like to remember that this event has been made in collaboration with Google. So I'm so happy to introduce the second part, leaving the floor to Google and starting with this interview to Sofia Correa de Stratton from Emanuela Locci, Communication Manager of Google. So Emanuela and Sofia, I'm so glad to leave the floor to you so to hear your points of view from Google. Emanuela, to you.
Thank you, Alberto. Buon pomeriggio. Welcome to this second part of the event. My name is Emanuela Locci, and I lead consumer comms at Google. And I have the pleasure today to host a conversation with Sofia Stratton. Sofia is Portuguese, Brazilian, and Norwegian. She joined Google in Lisbon in 2010. She lived in New York and is now based in London. She worked in 4 different sales teams within Google, but since she became a mother in 2016, she decided she wanted to do something with more purpose and linked to diversity and inclusion. So we're here today to talk about the I Am Remarkable program that she leads, but I would let Sofia herself tell us about it. So welcome, Sofia. Thanks for being with us. It's a pleasure to have you with us. At Google, you represent a pioneering figure on diversity and inclusion. Can you tell us about you, first of all, and how the idea of the I Am Remarkable program popped up to Ann Vayner, the founder of I Am Remarkable?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. And it's been so amazing and reassuring to listen to all the wonderful talks already before me. There's so much to do, and there's also so much that has been done. And it's great that we acknowledge all of that. So I Am Remarkable, for those of you who haven't heard about it, it is a Google initiative. So 2 women Googlers, both called Anna, they attended a program specifically tailored for women who wanted to jump to the next level and become managers, because we have our Google surveys that come out every year, and that we realized that a lot of the women are on par with men for certain levels, but when it comes to the level above, they don't progress to becoming manager, directors, or VPs or presidents. And so there was this long program called Stretch, which was created for a certain level of managers of women at Google. And when they attended this program, they were asked to list their accomplishments. And it was when they were asked to speak about them openly that they felt really uncomfortable to doing this. And this was a 3-day program. It was scaled globally at Google. And both Annas left the program thinking, wow, it was really hard to write our accomplishments and then really hard to stand up in front of everyone and say them. Is it just us? Is it a women thing? Is it a global thing? What is it? And at Google, nothing really happens without having research to back up your gut feeling. And so we also have this concept of a 20% project. So if your manager approves, you can spend 1 day a week dedicated to something you are passionate about. And so both Annas went to their managers and said, we attend this, we have a feeling that, there's more people who struggle with talking about their accomplishments, and we'd love to find out more. And their managers gave the green light, and it became a 20% project. And this was in 2016. And to date, so this workshop that they created, which is in essence a 90-minute workshop, has reached 250,000 participants globally. So it's really scaled, and it's essentially a workshop that helps people. It was started as a women-only initiative, and then it sort of now has diverted and it's open to everyone. And it helps people become more comfortable with speaking about their accomplishments, especially if they are based on facts. I believe I answered most of the questions, how it started. Emanuela, where do you want to, me to take
absolutely.
this now?
Maybe you could tell us more about how I Am Remarkable, develops the program with a certain group of people. Can you tell us a bit more about that, the structure?
Yes, so this is a 90-minute workshop, which is free and open to everyone. So it's a Google. It started off at Google. We piloted it at Google. When we saw that there were very good results, because we have a survey which happens right after the workshop and a survey that happens 3 months after the workshop, we get feedback. We understand, are facilitators good? Is the workshop content good? And when we saw that it was getting very good feedback, we launched it externally. So anyone can attend this workshop. We have people every day coming to our website, from big companies to small companies to universities. So people are very interested in this 90-minute workshop, which is essentially broken into 3 parts. The first part is all about research, and it's quite women heavy to date. And we are aware that we want to expand it more to other underrepresented groups. So we are working on that. But it talks about statistics such as, did you know that when men look at a job application, they will apply if they fulfill 60% of criteria, whereas women will only apply if they fulfill 100%. And I believe a lot of us women can relate to that. And I have 2 small daughters, and I sort of have that on the back of my mind when I'm raising them. Why is it that we need to see a job description? Unless it matches it entirely, we don't apply. We tell our husbands, oh, no, I'm not good enough. Whereas our husbands fulfill 50% of the criteria and go, I'll learn on the job. So it's this sort of stats that we present at the start of the workshop. Then you have the written exercise where people are invited to write, I am remarkable because. And we normally, to foster the thinking going, we go, it's good to provide professional examples as well as personal. And then the third part is when people are asked to share this openly with the people they are with. And it's normally 15 to 20 people in a workshop. And this is where it gets very deep. It's very rare for me to attend a workshop and not see someone cry, or even someone it's so hard for them that they can't even speak. And this is why it becomes so powerful and the feedback is so good. And that's why companies are really scaling it, because it's hard for most of us, and especially for underrepresented groups. And it's an exercise that if we foster this exercise, we will hopefully drive diversity in organizations and in societies. Yes, and the workshop it's something that is delivered by our trained facilitators. So we have 8,000 facilitators globally. 1.5 of them are Googlers, the rest are externals. And then these facilitators have been trained by Google to run workshops. And we offer the train the trainer. So that's how people get trained and then scale the workshop themselves.
I personally attended it, and it was a really great experience. And I attended it within a group made of women, but also men. So you said that it was originally intended for women. When then it was opened to all, what was the turning point that led the group to open it?
So we take our feedback really seriously. We have like a feedback form. It's reviewed every 2 weeks by a panel of people who just review the feedback, so that we can iterate the workshop according to what people's experience is. And their gut feeling, the founders, when they launched it, was that this was a women-only thing. The truth is that they started receiving feedback and testimonials, and people start emailing us saying, this workshop changed my life. I was never aware of a straight white male writing to us. I have 2 small daughters, and I would never be aware of their struggles had I not attended your workshop. We started getting this feedback, and we realized that it's an important workshop for everyone. We made it available, always made it to everyone, but it also marks the importance of allyship. So not being a minority, but being empathetic with an underrepresented group. And this is where people who go like, oh, I'm a straight white male, this workshop isn't for me. And it's like, okay, it might not be for you right now, but one day you might feel underrepresented. So my personal example, I never felt underrepresented growing up. I'm Portuguese and I was born and raised in Portugal, never felt sort of at all underrepresented. When I moved to the UK, and especially my husband being English, sat around the dinner table, 15 people. I was the only person whose English wasn't first language, only person who was Catholic, and the only person who didn't go to boarding school at 8 years old. I was a minority. I totally felt like a minority. And so it's like you can be a minority at different stages of your life. So it's not like we have a stamp, are you underrepresented or not? So the adaptability of the workshop makes sense in the different stages that you are. And inevitably, if you don't ever feel like an underrepresented part of an underrepresented group, it will always make you more empathetic. So we say that a lot. Some very senior people have attended the workshop and then tell us it opened my eyes to struggles happening in my team that I would never have realized had I not attended the workshop.
Indeed. Why don't you leave us with some tips from you about brands approaching diversity? What is your advice for them to make diversity really part of the company's culture?
And we talk to so many companies, right? We're engaging right now with more than 800 companies for I Am Remarkable. I think because it's free, there's no contract required, and it's easy to scale, right? A Googler runs one workshop, then we offer a train the trainer, employees become trained facilitators. Companies are loving it. So on the conversations we have with companies about diversity and inclusion, I would say the three big tips would be like, firstly, one thing that works very well is having employee resource groups. If you are part of an underrepresented minority or underrepresented group, knowing that you have a support system with you, and at Google, I think we do that brilliantly, and talking to other customers, I think they do that amazingly as well. I'm Asian, I now have the Asian Googler network. I am Black, I now have the Black Googler network. I'm trans Googler network. Just knowing that you have this family of safe, where you feel safe within your company, I think is really important. I think hosting listening sessions to really understand, do people feel comfortable coming into work as themselves? Do people feel that they can be promoted equally to their peer? Or do I feel different because I'm a woman, or different because I'm a black person? So I think listening sessions are really important to get to the core of what is the problem. And we at Google, we have surveys where we sort of get feedback from people, and that's a lot what tailors the direction year to year and the efforts we make on DEI. And then I think having a culture where it's okay to talk about accomplishments, fostering that. We talk to companies from all sorts of sectors and industries, and some industries are more familiar with it than others. Some cultures are more familiar with it than others. When I got to New York, like, if you don't talk about your accomplishments, it's like you're not part of the game. So suddenly it becomes like the language. So I think learning from the different cultures and sectors, you can really sort of create this culture where it's okay to talk about accomplishment as long as it's based on facts. And that's the thing. It's not boasting. It's still being humble, but it's factual. I remember when our president for EMEA, Matt Britton, joined our I'm Remarkable workshop, he said, until I joined the I'm Remarkable workshop, I hadn't realized I was the first person in my family to have a degree. You're on mute, Emanuela. Sorry,
I was on mute because there was a dog knocking at my door. So thank you, Sofia. Thanks for being with us, for inspiring us, and for this great program you really advocate very well for. I give back the stage to Alberto Dal Sasso and introduce the next part of the event. Thank you, Alberto. Thank you, Sofia.
Thank you, Manuela. Thanks, Sofia. So great experience. We were part of Remarkable at Nielsen as well, and that's a great initiative from Google. So at this stage, we would have got with us Sheba Nandkeolyar from Australia. She unfortunately had some issues, and she cannot be with us. So we have sometimes for our people for a question if there's any questions. So you can jot down your question in the chat if you have some questions. And in the meantime, I would have a question for Marianne. So. So you mentioned before there's some we are at the tipping point, but there's some gap to be closed, and we heard that from IAP that probably this is slowing down. So what we can do in order to, from our side as the industry, to speed it up in Italy, and not only in Italy, from your point of view, what we can concretely do, because you are a concrete person. I know you.
I'm very concrete. Indeed, I put all my attention in every casting that I'm doing, and my agency is doing. Of course, being in the position of a leadership is helping, because you can control and you can influence a lot of decisions. But what I think is the most important part of the game is the education. And I also attended I'm Remarkable workshop, and it's for sure very interesting. And I think that the power of this workshop is what mentioned before, is that it's scalable. And if you can reach a large number of people, you can have, of course, a result. And this is something that is also very important for the way the women is represented in advertising. We need to educate young people to understand what they are seeing, because what I find scary is that sometimes you don't even realize, because we are so used to see naked, beautiful young women that is so normal that for us is not anymore an ethic issue. There's nothing to complain. It's the way it is. So when once I attended to a choice of a model for a shooting, and I saw probably, I don't know, hundreds of this kind of situation. And these girls are very, very young, very, very beautiful. And the first screening is you in, you out, you in, you in, you in, you out, you in, you out. It's very brutal. It's definitely brutal. And of course, it's brutal like every single exam a person do in his life, because of course it's not only is choosing somebody for doing something is always very brutal, but choosing somebody for doing something just for the look and feel, and growing a generation of women thinking that the look and feel, the way you look out, is the way you can achieve something, you can get a job, you can be represented, is definitely wrong. And really, I think it's about education, conversation, discussing with young women, with young boys, with people that are from the next generation, because the tipping point is the generational change. And is like, and this is for sure true for women, gender gap, but it's also true for all the other gaps. because I'm sure that for racism, for diversity in terms of minorities is going to be different if we work very strongly with our kids, if we work in school. For advertising, for example, we need to work and to have clear conversations about these items in universities, academies, where people grow their know-how about advertising. And this is the only way we can change things.
Thank you, Marianna. You are expected to be concrete, and you are.
Actually, there is another thing that is helping a lot, but it's more tactical. It's less strategical. You're right. Something that people from advertising loves are awards. And so something that all the organization and our organization as well, but also our Director Club and Cannes Lions are doing is giving an award about gender discrimination and equal gender representation. In Italy, this award is called Equal, and in Cannes is called Glass Lion. And this is tactical, but this is also already doing something. It's not changing for good, but it's already putting this theme at the center of the conversation, and is really giving a boost to all our creative people to think about this. So it's something tactical. Education is something more strategic that really needs to take the time to change the way the new generation approach these kind of things.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. And you mentioned about young people, youth, new generation, our son and daughters, so are part of our future and our present. If Sofia, you're still there, I know that you have been working on the I'm Remarkable for Youth. So to put a link between what Marianna mentioned and your program related to the youngsters and young generation. Have you some comment on that?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So the point is, I'm Remarkable is available to adults, right? People who are already struggling with celebrating their achievements in the workplace and beyond. What we realized is, let's not have a program that is simply fixing a problem that is there. Let's launch a program that prevents it. So if we can reach students before they've reached their careers, and the pilot we're going to test in the UK in September is 13 to 18s, that crucial age, especially now with COVID and everything that's happened with isolation. People's mental health and self-confidence has really gone down the drain. We're piloting so that people feel comfortable with saying, I am remarkable because, and X, Y, and Z, and this speech becomes more ingrained. And when they get to university level, and that we already offer, when they get to university level and then their careers, they're much more comfortable in doing that than arriving at their careers with this problem, which was planted and then just grew. When we were studying the research between men versus women, it seems like men and women's self-confidence is on par when we're growing at the beginning of our lives. And then when women reach 13 years old, so 13-year-old girls, is really where our self-confidence collapses. And that's when men take a bigger jump. And then it never ends. Then we're never on par again. And so that's exactly what we're going to do with I'm Remarkable for Youth, which we are piloting in the UK in September with 5 schools. That's also another Google initiative.
Thank you, Sofia. We mentioned and we talk about new generation. I'm so curious, Maria Pia, what you think about. I know that you are engaged with young people and especially women, young people in your activity. Can you share with us your experience and your point of view from about this particular point that was raised from Marianna and Sofia?
Yes, Alberto, I was curious about the second question you got to Sofia, because I was thinking about this. When we go in a seminar, in a project, in a program like this one, I Am Remarkable, we are in a contest, in particular contest, and after when I go to my home, in school, in society, all is different. So the problem is, I share the problem with Sofia, that is the problem to grow up with different culture. Different culture means don't teach the same stuff in the same school for year after years without change anything. We have to change the way that men progress and women go back. Because at the age of 13, it means a lot to be in a world where you can share, you have an open mind, you can imagine that you can do something else. Because otherwise you think that you are a female, you have a dream, but just it, you cannot do anything else than dream about some different thing you could do, but you can do because you have to take care of the family, you have to do children and all this stuff. So my point of view of journalist is that the ambition for a real journalism should be to shape the society in a new way. And also at the bottom of this thought is, but which society we really want? And that's what I think we have to shape all together, people like us. Because McLuhan said that every media shapes the society. So in a multimedia and multi-platform society, what does it mean? And advertising has a role very important for me in this kind of situation, because young people are more attracted by advertising than by newspaper or traditional information or new kind of on information. So I think that we has to be capable to try to shape a world where we can live in a circle where I feel good because I have my roots, my place, all my stuff, but that can let me go out. And has to be a society without chain, without real chain and without mental chain. I think that a project like this one of Google is very important to open the mind and say, I am valuable, I can do things. And that's very important to do it in the school. And I hope we can do as soon as possible in Italy as they are doing in England, because from that point we can start.
Thank you, Maria Pia. From your point of view, we have a handful of minutes, and I would like to have the opinion within the same topic from Monica. What about the new generation, in your point of view, from your point of view, more legal point of view, probably, and regulatory point of view about that?
Yes, as I mentioned before, we are taking care of minors of new generation. We always keep an eye on advertising that can reach young generation. One of the examples I showed were pertaining to young people, because as has been said before, it all starts from a young age, and we have seen trends getting around gender and stereotypical issues which have started with them. So as a regulator, we have rules protecting minors, and we are always very attentive in making sure biases are not perpetrating.
Thank you, Monica. So I think that we are going to an end. So, and we as a International Advertising Association are engaged even in this field from diversity inclusion, and in particular including and working with the youngest generation is is statutory for us to work with young people, what we call youngster, and make this exchange in terms of experience, in terms of point of view, and learning a lot from this new generation. So we have to learn a lot to learn from young generation. So I would like to thank you again. I really appreciate your point of view, your different point of view from different side, from different angle of the media business community, and not only media business community. So thanks for you all, to you all, and thanks for all the participants. So any other question are welcome even after the meeting. So thank you again, and have a good evening, have a good day for people who are not here in Europe. And thanks again, and we'll see the next time on this topic from IAA. So thanks, and good evening, good day, and good night from people who are in the Far East. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.